How does unconscious bias affect the decisions we make and the way we behave when we are working with young people? Each one of us has our own particular unconscious biases, according to research by neuroscientists and psychologists. We form unconscious biases in different ways. For example, by how we are brought up, through personal experiences, and by seeing how different groups are portrayed in the media. This gives us preferences for certain groups and biases against others. These preferences are called social filters. We use them as a quick way to make assessments and judgments about the people around us. Psychology tells us that we all have a natural tendency to put people into social groups. These groups are often based on visual cues such as appearance, gender, ethnicity, and body size. We may also group people based on family background, where people live, accent, and socio-economic status. Biases based on social groups often happen through simple, everyday connections. For example, if the media always describes and portrays conventionally attractive people as having more friends and being more successful, and people with a visible difference as being less successful and having fewer friends. It's no surprise that when we are working with young people, we will often unconsciously associate young people with a visible difference with negative outcomes, and young people without a visible difference with positive outcomes. If a person, such as a youth worker, has no visible difference themselves, they may be biased towards young people who look like them. This is called affinity bias. Affinity bias is a common form of unconscious bias. It can affect how we behave towards young people with a visible difference, as well as what we expect of them. This can come out in decisions about how we group young people, not expecting people with a visible difference to achieve much, giving them less challenging tasks, or being overprotective towards them. It can also mean that we expect young people with a visible difference to be bullied. In turn, this unconscious bias may mean we avoid talking with parents, trusted adults, or colleagues about the support the young person may need. When affinity bias causes us to prefer young people who are more like us, it can lead to some subtle behaviours, sometimes called micro-behaviours. These can be positive or negative. Examples of positive micro-behaviours can include choosing certain young people to do things, such as answer questions, and supporting young people's ideas with encouragement and feedback. It can also show itself by behaviour such as chatting with certain young people after meetings, events, or during breaks. Examples of negative micro-behaviours include cutting young people off, not supporting their ideas, and giving less feedback. Other types of unconscious bias can also feed into negative micro-behaviours. For example, gender bias may lead us to asking girls to tidy up and boys to move the furniture. Or we might expect certain levels of behaviour and achievement based on ethnicity. As youth workers, we don't mean to make biased decisions when we are working with young people, but we can reduce biases and lessen their negative impact on our groups and organisations. To do this, we need to think carefully about inclusivity and fairness, and bear it in mind all the time. Doing this will help us to recognise the potential for biased behaviours and to create inclusive cultures that will benefit everyone concerned.